What up, everybody, and welcome back to yet another Sound of Violence podcast. We are an MMA podcast that lets you know the MMA podcasts you should catch, skip, and can't miss each week. I am Pulver, and I am pouring this beer absolutely terribly, and I am here with my co-host, Chris Madaffer. What up, dude?
I don't know. In Europe, that's a decent pour.
Yeah, well, for sure, but it's also warm in Europe. I'm just kidding.
Well,
It's only
yeah.
real sketchy pubs in England, and it's generally cask beer.
You're right, because that's generally how you're supposed to drink cask beer. But
Hell yeah, dog.
I
Cask
yeah.
ale.
I'm doing swell, if I may answer that way.
Yeah, you've had a pretty crazy up and down week, but it sounds like it's turning for the positive at least.
Yeah, man, it had a crazy month and a half, really. Yeah, I'm not going to get into it, but everything's good now. Everything's better than it was.
That's what's up. Well, luckily,
yeah, man.
So we had the week off last week, and then the card before that. Did you even end up seeing that card?
I literally just saw the Lee versus RDA.
Yeah, it was good,
that
right?
Was it. I was like, I liked it. That was a competitive fight. I know people talked about Lee's gas tank. I think that was more of just a cause and effect if he just gassed himself out enough. He just went too hard in the first round. Other than that, I thought he would hang with RDA pretty much most of the fight, except he didn't have anything left. And then, it just kind of, that's what became of it.
Yeah, he went super hard in the first, and he also wouldn't stop pursuing takedowns. And Dewey Cooper, who is a noted striking coach, kept telling him to keep pushing the takedowns aggressively.
Yeah, and I'm not going to take anything away from Dos Anjos because he looked great.
He looked great.
He's a fantastic fighter still, even at 34. I do think, though, that's a fight Lee can win, though, if they fought again.
Yeah, especially, Kevin Lee's real young, but anyway.
Yeah, he's only,
We'll get into that stuff later. But why don't we jump off with you don't have any Pop Ball Vodka presents Doug Stanhope presents our sponsors this week, right?
Nope, I do not.
That's right. Might have one next week,
but
might have one next week.
I definitely will have one next.
Yeah. But this week, since it has been hot as hell down here in San Diego, especially out in Santee, I am drinking Bitburger, which is like my go-to Pilsner. I think this 4-pack of, what are these, 16 ounce? 1 pint, 500 milliliters. So go ahead and convert that. I don't fucking know. But yeah, it's around a 16 ounce can. It was like, I think $7 for a 4-pack. And these things are fucking delicious. Straight out of, I want to say, Germany. Yep. Because, obviously, it's out of Bitburg, Germany.
The Bitburger.
That's right. But they're fucking.
You want to tell us in Celsius how cold your drink is?
It's not Celsius enough. I'll tell you that.
It's like, I'll tell you in Kelvin, man. Yeah, sure.
That's right. It's fucking delicious, though. It's my go-to Pilsner.
That's good, man.
And Pivo Pils. Look at Chris drinking out of a giant stein that's full of water.
Yep.
Yeah, you're going to a show later tonight, right? You're going to see Nick's band?
Yeah, I'll be drinking a lot tonight.
What's Nick's band's name again?
The Slaughter Boys, or maybe just Slaughter Boys. But it's their record release tonight. Check them out on Spotify, of course.
Shout out to Nick.
Just like the 2 words.
Yeah, so. Nick's a sweetheart, and also that painting right there came from his brother, Gilbert. So shout out to them. Well, that's for people not watching, pointing at the Leslie Smith painting behind me that I still need to fucking do something with. Right now I have it sitting on a fucking futon thing. It's not futon. I don't know what the fuck it is. Anyway, this is not a show about any of that. So why don't we go ahead and jump into format? Chris, why don't you start us off with the MMA podcast you recommend people catch this week?
So I think I have multiple, but I'll just start off with the one right here out of my notes. MMA Hour with Luke Thomas. I like this one. I like how even though this isn't fight related, it was an article I read as well from the New York Times. It's about aliens and UFO sightings from Navy pilots. I don't know if you've read that article. It's pretty crazy.
Heard about it. I haven't read it.
Yeah, pretty interesting. Anyways, this is fight related. Anthony Smith, who's fighting tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific time, on Saturday. Was on the phone. He's in Stockholm. His mindset is that he wanted to fight right away so he could get that disappointing feeling with his past fight against Jones, kind of just get rid of that sunken feeling of like, wow, he didn't say he blew it, but he definitely thought he could have done better. And I think a lot of us think that based on his fight against Jones. I don't think he.
Jones does that. Jones does that to a lot of people, though.
Yeah, he makes people look bad or look normal.
Yep.
He didn't realize how inactive Gus has been in the past year. I know he had surgery at one point and he was dealing with some injuries. Gustafsson was.
He had 15-minute. Totally fucked up his shit in the Jones fight.
Yeah. He also got kneed in the balls really fucking hard, like 30 seconds in.
Definitely didn't help because that was the area that got all fucked up.
Yeah.
But that I'm sure it was not intentional. John Jones isn't known for cheating.
No, he's very clean.
Yeah.
There's a good soundbite from Smith at 15-minute, 20-second mark about what he wants to do in the fight. Basically, like, I want to beat the shit out of you. I want to do this and that, and I just want to perform well. He has a feeling in his stomach of needing to destroy something, evidently.
He's on that Fight Club shit?
He says it's a fair assessment. Yeah, or if your name is, I don't know if you've seen that meme. If your name is Kyle, you love Monster, and you love punching holes in the drywall. That's a thing.
Checks out.
Yeah, I mean, it does.
Your brother's known for both those things.
Yeah, a little bit of craziness. I don't think he doesn't drink Monster. It's just the drywall.
Right. Right.
Anyways, he says it's a fair assessment that he emptied the gas tank too soon in his fight against Jones. He said he's like, honestly, there's no real game plan for Gus. I mean, okay. I don't think that's one fighter you shouldn't have a game plan for, but
yeah, he talked about that on the MMA Roadshow too. He talked about how essentially game planning for him just makes him fight out of his comfort zone. So he's focusing less on game planning.
Maybe it's unnecessary to him, to his style of fighting, his style of planning. So I can agree with that from that point of view.
Well, especially since he's got that Darren Till mentality. I mean, not Darren Till. Darren. Oh God, Damage. What's Damage's last name? Elkins. He has a little bit of that Darren Elkins. Like, my game plan is to just work my ass off and outwork you.
And that's essentially kind of how Cowboy trains too. He never watches tape.
Yeah, no. Cowboy notoriously dislikes watching tape.
And then Luke and Danny Segura were discussing Theodoro being cut by the UFC. They discussed who they want to see fight John Jones next. Luke says he's intrigued by the fight of Jones between a very weird fighter and Johnny Walker. Then they talked about Habib's. They did like phone call stuff where people leave messages for them. Someone talked about, is Habib already the greatest lightweight of all time? And they compared him to BJ Penn's run, that kind of thing, compared to who they fought. A lot of comparisons. Luke praised Colby Covington for his continued support of the nation's active veteran military. Apparently, every year for the past 5 or 6 years, Colby Covington would pay for his own airfare and voluntarily fly out and hang out with the Navy and the Air Force.
Yeah, he's been doing that for a long time. He talks about it on MMA Junkie every once in a while.
I think that's really cool of him. And what's cool too is people who do that, that have the humility to do that are wholesome about it. They don't tell you about it, because they don't need to. So I respect that. I think that's really cool.
Which is ironic because Colby's the last person you would expect to not tell you about that all the time.
Well, yeah, because based on his character. Exactly. So, no, I thought that was cool hearing that. I know Luke's a big fan. So, yeah, that was the first catch I had. I thought I didn't listen to the whole episode. I know he had Gustafsson on there later. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance. I was driving when I was listening to most of this.
It was definitely less frustrating than last week's episode when he had Ali on. Although he did try and ask Ali some actual questions. I heard
someone did write, or I read that he did actually ask some pretty decent questions, I'll call them.
Yeah, but Ali basically just did the same thing he always does, which is like, bro, these guys on the internet, you can't. They hang out with pedophiles, bro.
Yeah.
So it's great. But yeah, that sounds like a real solid episode. I actually didn't catch that one this week, so I'll have to go back and listen. So my catch for this week is the MMA Vivisection for UFC Stockholm, which is Connor is on vacation, and Zane said he notified all the local Denny's so that they can fortify in case he tries to go there. Which is great. it's a fucking great joke that the show is always late because Connor is passed out on Denny's bathrooms. That's my favorite shit. Let's see. So to fill in for Connor is Mookie Alexander, who is great. I'm a big Mookie fan. Yep. Formerly of the Two Amigos podcast, if you know what I'm saying. And he also is on the Level Change podcast and on Bloody Elbow.
Mookie and Crookie's do it,
yep.
right?
Mookie and Crookie also. Yeah. And I always like Mookie. He's great. He's super funny. He's 12 years old and lives in Oregon. It's great. John Anik also is on to break down the main and co-main event. And it's just a really cool episode. They've started doing guests recently. I don't think you were here last episode when I talked about how they had Jimmy Smith on as a guest for the Vivisection. And that was really cool. Wow. And then this week, they had John Anik call in and talk about the main and co-main. And I really like that they're bringing in guys, especially they're bringing in guys who are like clear analysts and do their homework on all this shit. And John Anik actually even shouted out Zane for like a lot of the shows like his is where some guys pick up some of that stuff and use on air. So it was cool to hear that. And it was just cool to hear John Anik interact and do a breakdown on a show that is basically all about breaking down details. Just a fun back and forth. And Mookie is always great. So I enjoy it for sure.
Yeah, I didn't realize, isn't he the guy who pretty much is like the intro voice to all the Bloody Elbow Presents?
Yeah.
I think that's his voice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been around forever. They always used to joke that he's the youngest, hence the 12-year-old comment. But I think he's like probably your age, I want to say, or so. Maybe my age, somewhere in there. But everyone always calls him 12, and it cracks me up every time. Cool. So you said you had some other catches, right?
Yeah, I'll go through them. I enjoy the A-side live chat now with Jose Youngs and Alexander K. Lee.
I was going to ask which one. That is actually my new show. If you want to hold off on that one for right now.
I will. I do have... Okay, let's see real quick. I do have another catch. I'll say it real quickly if you like. I just got done listening to this. Co-main event. So the first question is this card merely a springboard for UFC 238? They addressed, and I know this was said months ago. Yeah, probably though. This was addressed months ago. Alexander Gustafsson thinks he should hang up the gloves if he doesn't beat Anthony Smith. They both think Gus needs to finish Smith to validate himself in the rankings, meaning like, oh, he can cut a promo. Hey, John Jones, I finished Smith when he went the distance with you, yada, 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 that kind of angle. Then they discussed 238 quite a bit. Shevchenko versus I, the odds. I think Jessica I is a 9-1 underdog right now, which I guess sounds about right.
I guess, man. Like that fight's going to decision. I'm pretty positive. So
yeah,
I don't know about.
Either.
Like Jessica I is one bad card away from winning.
Yeah. Theodoro being cut surprised Chad. Excuse me. Mainly because Chad was just talking about his markability just based off his looks, but it's like then they said, well, he probably got cut based on how he fights. It's like, well, I would hope that's how you kind of judge someone's your employees' production, whatever you want to call it. How you evaluate your employees.
Independent contractor.
Oh, excuse me, that's right. Yeah, or excuse me, your contract. Yeah, because they're fighters. You know what I'm talking about. I'm just thinking of the whole.
I mean, they're basically employees, but yeah.
But yeah, you know what I mean. That whole mindset of it. Yeah. You're the person that you've hired independently. How are you going to evaluate them? Unfortunately for Theodoro, or as Reddit was calling him, there's the Doro.
That's not nice.
I know that's not nice.
It's very funny, but it's not nice.
He just didn't cut it. I remember someone posted him versus Alvey where he's just like, what is he, fucking shadow boxing? And he's literally just going like this, like just doing like teeps and nothing, just landing. And
my favorite is the standing. My favorite is the standing hammer fists, Artem style.
Yeah. So they talk about that. They talk about the current pay-per-view model, which is always going to be getting discussed for as long as it stays on ESPN Plus. Because I can't remember if Canada has access or I have no idea.
I think the UFC is still on TSN in Canada, I want to say. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, that makes sense. Where they talk about Mark Diakiese made a good point of why shouldn't I just go over to PFL so I could beat up most of those guys for $1 million? Why not
Mark
more
Diakiese would get wrestle fucked.
I know.
In the
That's
PFL.
what I was thinking. I was like, yeah, maybe not. I mean, he's talented, but there's a lot
he's
of other
great.
fighters that can, yeah.
But I don't know about him doing well over there. Like, I heard that guy say that who wrote in, and I was like, man, that is one of the few guys, especially in that division, that I don't know how he would do. He would probably do real good for the first round, but second and third rounds, I feel like could definitely be tough on him. Then again, he looked fucking incredible against Joe Duffy. So what do I know?
Yeah. Maybe all it takes is just a really good camp and preparation, which is usually how you win fights.
He is an ACT.
I mean, there you fucking go. So, yeah, that's it for my other catch, and then the other one, which is your new that we could talk about later or whenever.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to jump into the MMA podcast you recommend people skip this week? Although I should, before you do, give the Eugene S. Robinson style disclaimer. Just because we're saying to skip your show doesn't mean we hate your show or you. In this case, I actually really like the show and the host and mine. It just means that this episode was rough. It could be one thing that caused it, could be a couple things, but it was frustrating enough that I kind of wish I hadn't listened. That tends to be the theme with a lot of the skips. So why don't you jump us into your skip for this week?
So I pretty much, and this isn't necessarily myself, I pretty much skipped Believe You Me. I was driving most of these and I'm listening. I was driving. I had a weird week. Like I'm not going to mention for the millionth time. It's good now. Everything's great. I don't know. The first 10 minutes are pretty funny. Some bit about female pilots and Lewis's joke about that. That doesn't matter. MMA Junkie was kind of hard to follow. They talked about Justin Willis being cut. No, or he's kind of cut.
Oh yeah, he got cut. He got cut.
He did get cut.
He's saying he didn't get cut, but it sounds like he got cut.
Yeah, I think he's out. Then they had a great analysis of Tony versus Cowboy. Then they had fan polls of One Punch Power versus Volume Strikers. Anyways, the actual skip, I think he did 2 episodes. It's going to be the Fights Gone By with Jack Slack. The one where it's like something Chaudhry. What's the guy's name? The guy from One.
Oh, that would be the one. Yeah, it's a Chaudhry. Yeah,
I just kind of had trouble following along. I did like what he had to say about I did like what he had to say about the bare knuckle boxing hype or hyping up again. Since Jack is such a boxing enthusiast and basically analyst, excuse me, not an analyst, not even a real thing, an analyst. Yeah. I know, right? Everyone's thinking of the word analysis.
I was thinking of the word analysis, thanks to Rust Development.
Oh, see, thank you. See, I need to go and rewatch that, like seasons 1 through 3. 4 was all right.
It's real good. No, that's 1 through 3 is real good.
But the point is, Jack was talking about Paulie Malignaggi. He's like, Paulie's one of the last people who should be in bare knuckle boxing because he has very fast hands, very accurate hands, but they're fragile and he has little power. I mean, all fair points. I don't know how that fight's going to go. I can't even remember when that fight is. Isn't it like next week or two? Like it's early June?
It's in June. Up, I think. I don't give a fuck about that fight because it's a bare. If you guys can't tell, I'm using, what did Phil McKenzie call them? Inverted commas right now. Bare knuckle. They're wearing gloves. They're wearing fucking gloves in this fight because Florida won't let them not wear gloves. So there's just a strip across the knuckle. They're actually... There's a strip across the knuckle that makes it bare knuckle.
Yeah. I'll tune in just because Malignaggi spitting on low bob. Yeah, that's a big low blow. And like I said before, I don't have anything against Malignaggi when he's like on the mic. He's a great analyst in the boxing game, at least. I don't have anything against low bob. I loved his fight against Jason Knight. That was entertaining as fuck.
Crazy.
If I'm honest.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So I'm gonna watch it for sure. I don't give a fuck if it's not full on bare knuckle. I'm looking forward to it. They're doing a good job of making Paulie look like the villain. I mean, he's doing that himself. He's trying to sell that shit.
That shit I fucking died when he said he was gonna piss in Artem's mouth. That was my favorite shit of all time. That is right up there with that, like the Mike Tyson, "I'll fuck you till you love me" faggot lines, like of just like, or Andre Arlovsky's "How tastes my pee-pee," and just like the most insane shit.
It was like I'm a piss in your fucking mouth, Autumn.
Yeah, I'll piss in your fucking mouth. Or Jeff Munson with his you guys want to watch me fuck a man for free or whatever he said on that promo. Oh my god, it's just so good.
Oh shit. I don't know, the mental warfare. Who knows? I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, that was my skip. I love Jack Slack. His written work is solid. His boxing analysis is always good. So as far as boxing goes too, the only really good division right now is the heavyweight division. That's the only thing you guys should be paying attention to. So for all those boxing fans out there, pay attention to heavyweight. And pay attention to Lomachenko.
Yeah, I was going to say, Chris says that, but Joshua is fighting tomorrow?
Yeah. And I mean, I saw it.
How much do you care about that fight?
I don't, because it's based on who he's fighting. Yeah. It's pay attention to that division because it's three guys that are supposed to fight each other, but how has boxing historically usually worked? That never usually works out. They usually avoid each other. Yeah. Because in boxing, you have multiple belts. So it's like, well, if I don't fight this other champion who could take away all my belts, I could just still keep my shiny one I have to make me think I'm a champion. Whatever. That's just boxing. They need one belt. That's never going to fucking happen.
The problem is if there's one belt, then everybody gets paid shit. that's the UFC model. I don't know if you noticed.
Yeah, no, it's very apparent. So that's what I have for the old skip.
Nice. So my skip this week, this is a show I love. Actually, I don't know if you know this is a thing because I think the last week was the first time I talked about it. Have you heard of our MMA show? OUR? I guess our MMA show. I fucking I talk lazy. Let's be real.
That's all good. Just like how some people pronounce the letter W as W.
Yeah. Well, every once in a while I'll say things super fucked up also because my dad's from Jersey. And so like fucking you hear me say chocolate every once in a while. It's fucking terrible. Anyway. So
yeah, but no, I haven't heard of Our MMA. It's called Our MMA Show.
Yeah, it's hosted by Jimmy Smith.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. Now I'm definitely interested.
Evidently, he's had a podcast for like the last 3 or 4 months, and I just found out about it last week.
I'm gonna fucking write that down.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I really like it. I forget the name of his co-host off the top of my head. I talked about it last week, but it's really good. It's a fantastic show. The first episode they did was about their Mount Rushmores of MMA and who they think should and shouldn't be in. And they do breakdown episodes pretty regularly. But the only reason this is a skip this week, it's really good overall. I like everything about this podcast except for one thing. They talk about Yoel winning the lawsuit. They talk about Uriah's return. Talk about Dylan Dennis fucking knowingly competing in ADCC with staff, which is a shithead move.
Yeah, you can't do that.
And then they talk. Yeah, they even talk about some pretty interesting stuff that you don't hear a lot of people, I'll say, associated with MMA organizations say. I guess Jimmy isn't technically at the time being, but they talk about stuff like the ESPN Plus model increasing revenue but shrinking the audience size for MMA, especially for the UFC. Talk about stuff like David Tamer in this fight clearly being set up to lose because of the why when he's 0-3 is he on the main card and facing a 7-1 prospect who's starching people.
And it's because it's like, hey, let's let the Swedes cheer for another Swede regardless.
Well, and I think the dude's Asian, but he's just going out smashing dudes.
I'm talking about Tamer. Because Tamer's Swedish.
Part of it's audience pop, but part of it is also just building a dude.
Happens all the
time. But the reason this is a skip for me is they did the one thing. I complain about ads more than probably anyone in the MMA podcast space because everyone does them so terribly. I don't know why no one understands that all you have to do to make a commercial fit into your show is throw to the commercial. Just say, "Oh, cool. Well, we're going to talk about we're going to talk about whatever fucking dude wipes or whatever, and we'll be back in a minute to talk about whatever. And then you just throw to the commercial. Or you do it live and you just lead into the commercial. Both those are very viable options.
That's it. Or do it in like a minute.
Yeah, which Connor Rebush is great at. I feel like that's one of the better examples in an MMA podcast. They do. I mean, preferably, I would rather you do all the ads up front or at the end, like Joe Rogan. But Connor Rebush and the Heavy Hands, they'll do a segment. They'll end the segment. He'll say, "We're going to talk about fucking Patreon or whatever," and when we come back, and then they play the ad. That's how you do a fucking ad read. I don't know why this is difficult. However, everyone else just decides, well, we ended a sentence and we're at the 20-minute mark, so we're going to just run this ad read. The reason our MMA show is a skip is because they did it mid-sentence. They just played an ad read mid-sentence. And it wasn't even either of them talking. It was some other dude talking about his MMA podcast, which it's fine. I don't have a problem with you doing an ad, but it's so jarring when mid-sentence Jimmy Smith stops talking and I hear some random dude start talking about his MMA podcast. And then when he ends, Jimmy Smith just continues his sentence. It was you can't do that.
Yeah, that sounds bad.
It was bad. It was one of the worst ad reads I've ever heard. The ad read was fine, but it's one of the worst ad placements I've ever heard. So that's why it's a skip for me. I love the show. I think it's a great show. They didn't do that last week. I don't know what. Maybe it was just an editing problem or they fucked up or something. But wow, that was frustrating. So
yeah, I'll still check it out for sure. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's a great show. And like I said, they didn't do it last week. So I don't know, or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was. So I don't know why they decided to do it that way this time, but hopefully it's not a trend, or else I'm going to have to tweet at Jimmy Smith and be like, the fuck, bro? Also, shouts out to whoever's drunk and singing.
Yeah, he's definitely not drunk. He just loves to sing.
Oh,
so
wow.
Shouts out to singing by Trevor in the background. Let's see. So did you want to get to – you had a new one, right? Which is the one that was one of my –
I do, but why don't you jump into? Do you have a can't miss episode this week?
I do, and there's a caveat to it. It is also my off-topic podcast.
Oh, nice!
If that's okay.
Sure, fuck it. I think when we started this format, I on the first week intentionally broke the format because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we could always blend some stuff in here. Anyways, my off topic, but it's also can't miss. It's absolutely fucking hilarious. It was JRE with JD and John Witherspoon. Holy shit, was this good?
Yeah, I have that on mine too. Yeah. It was so fucking good.
Oh man, this was hilarious. For those who don't know who John Witherspoon is, that's who you probably recognize the name. JD is his son. I don't know if he's an up and coming comedian. I know he does club shows in Hollywood.
He works.
I looked him up. He does a lot of voice acting work, like his dad John, who you probably know from the Adult Swim show The Boondocks.
You know it from The Boondocks. Maybe the best cartoon of all time.
Which has been confirmed by John himself. They're coming back again.
Blew my fucking mind.
Yeah,
I lost my shit when I heard this. I was like, oh.
Yeah. But JD, his son JD does voice acting for this show on Adult Swim called Laser Wolf. I don't watch. I'm not up to date like on Adult Swim shows or animated content, but that's cool. He's going in his dad's footsteps in that department.
I haven't really watched Adult Swim since Loiter Squad stopped being on it. Shouts out to Tyler, the creator. Shouts out to Haji Daddy. Anyway.
I remember, I think the last show I watched when I had cable, when I was watching it, was Mike Tyson's mystery thing. It was like the Scooby-Doo thing.
That's hilarious. I didn't hear about that.
It's actually pretty funny. Like Mike Tyson does a lot of the voice work. He plays himself. His sidekick, who's like Scooby-Doo, is like a pigeon, a talking pigeon. And there's like some other. I think the guy from Adventure Time or from like Rick and Morty is like on the show too, or some shit. One of those guys. They all have like it. It's pretty funny. So I have a couple notes in here. They were talking about passenger airplane stories and people being morons and unreasonable, like a guy who put his seat back before takeoff, which I've never heard of or seen. Like, I can't imagine someone like, all right, get ready for takeoff, and you're just like, yeah, like, what the fuck's gonna happen? You're probably gonna fall the fuck back. I don't understand how that work. They're talking about John was saying there's other people trying to police others where to sit. Like, no, you're fucking sitting right here. I'm like, yeah, sure. I could see if that's on Southwest where it's open seating, and I imagine that's where he was on. He talks about growing up in Detroit and the fall of that city economically, which is unfortunate. I think he mentioned, or Joe mentioned, they're trying to rebound from that.
Yeah, all the talk about
watching
Detroit
Elvis really when he was younger. He talked about the first time he watched the UFC, and it was Anderson Silva versus Chael Sonnen, I believe, or it was Anderson Silva versus Vitor. He just remember he made because John's known for like making funny. Yeah, he's known for making funny sound effects. He's like, yeah, Joe, he had up his toes like that, right in his face or some shit like that. It was just the way he described, like, oh yeah, that's a front kick to the face.
For sure. Also, we should mention, if you guys don't know John Witherspoon from Boondocks, you definitely know him from Friday as the dad in Friday.
Yep, he plays Pops.
Yeah, he's fucking great.
Yeah,
he's also been in like a billion other things. So
yeah, he was in the Wayans Brothers sitcom in like the 90s. This dude's been everywhere. He was in that show Black Jesus in Adult Swim. He had a big partnership with Adult Swim because of Boondock. He's been in a lot of different things.
Yeah.
He said there was a time where 6 years ago, someone on the internet made a rumor that he had passed away, which forced his son JD and him to make social media accounts finally because they weren't really on social media. And I think JD was saying, he's like, yeah, my dad had like 25,000 followers in an hour after he realized he wasn't dead or some shit.
That's crazy.
John said, growing up, I didn't realize I wanted to be a comic. I can't remember what he said he wanted to do originally. It was a friend of his that told him about being a comedian, just stand up. But he said, Joe was like, what was your motivation, to get into this industry? He's like, oh, money. He's like, really? Just that? I'm like, yeah, because when you're broke, you tend to do a lot of things, to your best full-fledged effort, which I respect that. That's very true. If you don't have money, you kind of go to lengths that you never knew you can go.
Yeah, like
a job, whatever it is. What's up?
No, you weren't talking about hooking?
Oh, not necessarily.
Or necessarily.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got. I mean, you know what? If people want to pay, yeah,
no one wants to pay.
I know.
Anyway,
right. Yeah, he said, but there's at one point he bought a shitty $150 Mustang, drove all the way to LA, and like every 200 miles, transmission and fluid and oil would start leaking. So he said that was fun, having to do that. He had a story, and the last night he had a story about gambling in Vegas while he was waiting for his unemployment check to arrive the next day. And he hit like $7,000 like on the machine, and he was like freaking out. He's like, "Is the machine broken?"
That's a good day.
Yeah,
that's more money than Yoel Romero will see from a lawsuit, probably.
Yeah, I don't know how much money he'll even see that.
Oh, like nothing. He'll see whatever. The majority of what he does see is going to end up going to the lawyer and to Malkikawa.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's such a good episode. They also talk a lot about the old school days of the Comedy Store because John said he started working there right around the time Mitzi took over for her husband.
Yep.
Which is real cool. It's like right around the era. If you guys have ever watched the show I'm Dying Up Here, it's like right in that same era. Which I recommend, by the way. I'm Dying Up Here is fucking hilarious. I know a lot of people dislike it, but I think it's fucking great. Mostly it's people at the Comedy Store who dislike it, and that's because they're too close to the situation. They're like, well, they didn't. Clearly, the Mitzi character isn't doing enough coke and being sketchy enough. So,
yeah. I'd have to see it to have judgment for it, but I think it's on Showtime.
Yeah, it's really fucking good. It's what's the redhead dude? Andrew Santino?
That sounds right. Isn't Christina P in it?
Oh, she might be later on. I don't know about Joey. I know that
Oh no, I'm sorry. This is the Netflix thing that Joey did with Christina P.
Oh yeah, that was that. Yeah, that was the whatever dirty comedy. Whatever thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, comedy stuff's been weird lately. I watched the Shop special when I was real drunk and real high. Like I smoked a joint and I think we went through like half a bottle of vodka and a 18 pack, and then I watched that special. Wasn't bad.
Okay.
It has an 8% on Rotten Tomatoes, and everybody thinks it's terrible. But when you're absolutely hammered and real high,
you just told me by the amount you just told me you drank, that could have been the booze.
I think it very well might have been, but I'm not going to rewatch it and find out. I had a great time.
That's all that matters.
So, pro tip: drink an 18-pack, half bottle of vodka, and smoke a joint. That special was real solid. It was a long day. It wasn't like an hour before the thing. It was over the course of a day. Either way. So I guess I should jump into my can't miss episodes. I've got 2. First one was Show Money, episode 28. They're back. While they say they're doing monthly episodes, it seems like it's more like 6 weeks, but I'm not mad at it. They talk about the lower ESPN pay-per-view buys and the fact since the UFC has that $500 million guaranteed from ESPN, how they can kind of do what the fuck they want. They talk a bit about PFL's premiere happening during an NBA game and how they had the same numbers they did before they were on ESPN Plus, which is kind of interesting because they were buried on they were buried on some kind of like deep cable package. I forget what they were on before. NBC Sports.
NBC Sports Network. That's right. Yeah.
Which is like deep.
So wait, are you saying it went on the same time as the NBA Finals, or was it perhaps the Stanley Cup Final? Because the Stanley Cup Finals on NBC.
It was an NBA game, but this was like the PFL premiere was like 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 months ago, something like that. Okay. But it was like a pretty big game, and the game was on ESPN too, I think. So it drew a lot of the audience, obviously.
That'll happen.
Yeah, the other thing they talk about PBC possibly being sold to Endeavor, which is interesting and could kind of change ESPN Plus and Endeavor's control of, because if they're going to Endeavor, you figure they're probably going to ESPN Plus, and how that could change a lot of the kind of control both parties have on the combat sports world, because that would be a pretty giant acquisition, and you figure it would definitely give them enough control to where it would change the landscape a bit. And then they talk a lot about ONE's new agent requirements since that came out after the last show. And that's the main reason I have it as a catch, because there are so many conflicts of interest and like fucked up things about that one agent requirement notification they put out, or whatever you want to call it, press release. And it's just great hearing John Nash and Jason Cruz and Paul Gift just break down like the 1,400 different ways that it's completely illegitimate, and how they now can't get sanctioned in North America unless they're very sketchy athletic commissions, all kinds of stuff. So I thought that was really cool to hear. And they actually had one of the most concise and kind of well thought out attacks to why that's such a broken idea. The most of which being they own a fucking agency. How can you have agent requirements? Also, how can you be a promoter and have an agency?
Ask Ali.
Yeah. He definitely comes up during the episode. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
So I actually had another can't miss this week. And that's the MMA Depressed Us, which is actually from last week when we were off. Since the MMA Depressed Us, it's Connor Rebush, Zayden Simon, and Phil McKenzie. Jesus, I had a panic attack. Almost forgot Phil's name. So it's just a great episode. It's basically a giant retrospective on James Thompson's career. I believe it's called the Colossal Megapunk Show. And it's very fucking good. It's James Thompson versus Rob Broughton, James Thompson versus Pujanowski, and James Thompson versus Bobby Lashley in the Super Fight League. And it's maybe some of the funniest MMA, like, this is the closest to MMA Mystery Science Theater you're going to get. It is so damn close. They have some hilarious jokes. For everything from Rob Broughton looking like a fat kid at the beach kind of vibe, when he was walking into his fight. To I believe there's a lot of Weeble Wobble references to some of the heavyweights. Also, I believe it was Phil questioned how many back in the day, or maybe it was Zane, I can't remember. So questioned how many fights back in the day. You know, you always see those like Greek statues that were like old school fighters that would have the ears cut for cauliflower ear and all kinds of shit. And like, notorious Greece for Grace and all that. They questioned, like, there must have been just giant back guys that they fought back then also. So how many of those guys' wins are just over big Weeble Wobbles, which is real fun. I believe the joke "cabbage of Troy" comes up during that. They get really weirded out about how not pink Thompson gets, considering he's English. It's every time English people fight, they turn bright fucking pink, as Phil McKenzie brought up.
I mean, yeah, especially if you're just pasty as fuck in general, but they're not wrong about that.
Which shouts out to the card that we're going to talk about with what's dude's name from Cage Warriors? Who's the grappler? Fuck, here, I've got it. What is it?
Paddy Pimblett?
I don't know. No, not Paddy Pimblett. Paddy Pimblett's not English. Chris Fishgold. Chris Fishgold turns pink as shit. So
no, Paddy Pimblett's Irish, right? Or
yeah, super Irish.
Excuse me, yeah, that's Irish as fuck sounding. What am I talking about?
Right. But yeah, it's just a great episode. They also, towards the end, during the Bobby Lashley fight, they create an entire anime around that fight, and it's real fucking good. There's sound effects, they do voice lines, they write out a script for it. All while Bobby Lashley is recovering from the second nut shot he received in that fight. So it's just real good. It's just overall just a real good episode, and they have some killer lines. I believe at one point there's an announcer for Super Fight League who looks real, or no, it wasn't Super Fight League. It was what was he? It was Cockney Bruce Buffer over in Cage Rage back in the day, who I believe Phil called Bruce Botcher, which is I was real happy about. So a lot of those kind of just like very subtle, like Phil doing dry English humor, and it's real good. I figure it's a good counter to the seriousness of show money is the MMA Depressed being goofy as hell.
Oh no, that's I mean, yeah, the thing I listened to with Phil was they just wait, did you already mention Heavy Hands? I was distracted because my roommate's blasting really fucking loud music.
That's funny.
And it's like
I can't even hear it.
Okay, that's good. I was kind of worried about that, so hold on. I'll put this earpiece in. Did you mention Heavy Hands? Because yeah, I was trying my best to listen to you.
Oh no, it was all MMA Depressed. Yeah, good though.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I was just like, fuck. I just had to kind of.
It's all good.
Yeah, God, now I just lost my train of thought. Okay.
That's all right. We can keep on moving. We jump. Why don't we jump into the new show you listen to as well, which is the Ace Live Chat is no longer hosted by Sean Al-Shadi, since Sean Al-Shadi has left. Sean Al-Shadi has left MMA fighting, along with Chuck Mindenhall has left MMA fighting, and somebody else recently left MMA fighting. I forget who. Oh, Mark Raimondi, who was previously on that show. So evidently, if you go on the A-Side live chat, you're leaving MMA fighting. So Jose Young's not long for them. I'm just kidding. But by the way, before we get into anything else, do you know why Chuck Mindenhall left MMA fighting?
No clue.
Well, spoiler alert.
Maybe he went to ESPN or some shit like most
No,
of them do.
let me pull up front row. I mean, not front row Brian. Fight Oracle on Twitter. Broke the news, which is no one is mentioning because he is FRB or he's not FRB. But I'm trying to see if I can pull up the exact. It was a while back, and this dude tweets a lot. Anyway, evidently Chuck Mindenhall, Ben Folks, and somebody else are moving over to a different. I wish I could figure out who it was. Here, I'll try and figure this out. But evidently, they're all they're moving to
Like a new platform?
Yeah, a new outlet. I forget what the outlet is, but they're all moving there at the same time, which is pretty interesting. And actually, John Morgan, even on the MMA Roadshow, is like, oh, there's going to be some changes to the site for MMA Junkie. We're going to have some new people coming on. We're going to have some people leaving. But the folks that are leaving are going on to start some new stuff that'll be very cool. I was like, dude, John Morgan, the fact that you said the folks that are leaving and it's been folks leaving, I am so here for that kind of content. So
yeah, it's pretty clever.
Yeah, it was one of the best things I heard all week. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. Josh Gross is the other one. Josh Gross is leaving between rounds and going over there as well. I'll try and find the name of it. But yeah, Jose Youngs was pretty all right, especially for like his first episode he's hosting on his own. It's pretty solid.
Yeah, I'd like their talk about the rumors of Endeavor going public. What's the point of Uriah Faber coming back? Does the MMA, will it ever have a real Hall of Fame, akin to, say, Major League Baseball or the NFL, where you go there and there's a 5-year waiting period after you retire? So that means technically Uriah Faber and, say, BJ Penn, right? They retired. I don't know when they actually – well, they're not retired now, but say they retired this year, right? That means they wouldn't have been eligible until 2024, because that's how the other – but that's because the only – Hall of Fame for MMA is the UFC, but I agree. I think there should be a real Hall of Fame for MMA. That'll never happen, not as long as Dana is still around. He does not give a fuck about anyone from Pride, from One, from Bellator. He just doesn't care, and that's unfortunate because I'd love to see, used equipment. Here's are the gloves from Dustin Poirier when he did Max Holloway or some shit, or the fight. You know what I'm saying? Or here's someone's mouth guard. I like their in-depth comparison to that. And they think it's they both think it's weird. Here we have 2 Hall of Famers that are still fighting in BJ Penn and Uriah Faber, and that's just weird. So I agree. Like, if you're in the Hall of Fame, you should not be. It should mean you're like perma retired. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Talked a bit about Uriah's return in that show, which. I mean, they have the same feelings that I feel like a lot of people have about it. I feel the same way, which is like, man, it never feels good to see people come back from return. That never feels like it's going to be fun and lighthearted.
Yeah, and it's like you see who he's fucking fighting.
Yeah, exactly.
Good luck. Yeah, good luck.
Ricky Simone is, let's just say it's not going to go well for Uriah Faber.
No.
They also, one other thing they brought up in that episode that I really was interested in is they talked a lot about Endeavor possibly going public and how it could change like some of the information that's available about the UFC, like fighter pay, sponsorship money, all that stuff becomes much more clear if they go public. Yeah,
I know Dana, I think, I didn't look.
Yeah, this was a while back.
Yeah. But I remember someone mentioned, have you seen, and I know how Dana interacts sometimes on social media with other fans or MMA enthusiasts. Someone had commented, I saw on Instagram, like, Dana said, we have our main event for UFC Sacramento. And some user said, holy shit, this is the main event. This card is absolute trash. Fuck this. And then Dana just replied, stay home then, fuck face.
Also, I don't think it's the main. I don't think you're right.
No, he's not. And I was saying the main event that he announced, it was Jermaine Durandamy and Aspen Ladd, which that's what
Ladd. I like Aspen Ladd a lot. I think she's very good. I think she's going to get fucked up if she stays Jermaine Durandamy.
Yeah, no, I still think Jermaine Durandamy is one of the top bantamweights in the world, I guess, or even featherweights, as long as she stays healthy. But her striking is really a problem for a lot of those fighters, and just her size. So, it could be interesting. I feel like if Aspen could take it to the ground, who knows? But I think GDR is good on the ground too. I can't really remember, but
she's better on the feet. And if Aspen Ladd gets it to the ground, I think Aspen Ladd probably wins the fight. I think it's going to be. I would be surprised if Ladd is able to just smash through Jermaine Durandamy, get a takedown, and work around the pound. But she's done it to a lot of fucking people. She did it to fucking Tom Evinger, for Christ's sake. So Worth noting. The other thing I really liked about this episode is they did talk about how one is sketchy as fuck. They just straight up said, like, yo, when you don't disclose anything, you are sketchy. When you don't allow media into weigh-ins and fighters don't know their opponent's weigh-ins, that shit is sketchy.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's good hearing like actual media talk about it.
Yeah, and I think that's what Jack Slack was talking about in the episode I skipped. He was talking about the guy named Chatri. I don't know what the fuck his name is.
Chatri.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was solid.
Yeah, it was pretty good overall. I liked it. One thing that's interesting to keep an eye on with MMA fighting, especially with all the people leaving, I tweeted about this week, but Vox Media is currently having a whole bunch of people evidently a lot of Vox Media, especially the newer hires, are trying to start a union because Vox Media is tending away, like pretty drastically seems to be trending away from full-time hires and trending towards independent contractors and like part-time staff. And so it's interesting to see all the changes at MMA Fighting, which is owned by Vox Media. Vox Media, if you guys don't know, also own Vice and a handful of other things. But it's interesting to see how clearly the turnover is. And it's just exactly in line with stuff like Vice. Well, it used to be Waypoint, but now it's Vice Games, I believe, with Austin Walker. It's just interesting to see all that happening to line up at the same time. Doesn't mean it's necessarily related, but you got to figure guys like Josh Gross and, well, not Josh Gross, but Chuck Mendenhall and guys like that who are specific, and Sean Al-Shadi, they all seem to be, at least on the surface, leaving Vox Media properties to go to somewhere who will clearly pay them to be a full-time.
Yeah, I remember when Jack Slack was a writer, just the main guy for Vice when they had
back when they had Fightland. Yeah.
I remember that was bum when that shit got shut down or just dissolved, whatever you want to call it.
Oh yeah, and Vice is kind of like all fucked up. Eugene S. Robinson still yells about how Shane owes him money. I'm pretty sure, which is hilarious.
Oh, I know, and it's nice since he is, just from what I've heard from people who've interacted with him personally. Action Bronson even was kind of saying Vice like.
Oh, Action Bronson fucking hates Vice. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like they just ran that shit into the ground. Which I mean, if you look at their content. Even fucking Munchies, which I like Munchies a lot, but Munchies has fallen off a fucking cliff lately too.
Yeah.
So anyway, on a less depressing note, did you have any other well-rounded episodes other than Joe Rogan Experience 1305 with John Witherspoon?
Other than that, it was just Bill Burr, just
as always
gloating. That lucky piece of shit about how good Boston sports are. Fucking Bruins.
Boston.
Yeah. Oh, how many parades have you been to, little Johnny, who's 8? Oh, like since I was a baby. Just like, yeah. Okay. So go Blues. Sorry, Billy. Go St. Louis Blues. Do not want the Bruins to win. Don't get me wrong, everyone. I know people are like, oh, why don't you watch the NBA? Motherfuckers, I watched the Raptors win yesterday too. It's like you can watch both. Hockey is great too.
But also we don't watch any sports other than baseball down here because all of our teams abandoned us for LA.
Oh, I don't know. I'm still a
shouts out to the Clippers. Shouts out to the Chargers.
Hey, the Rockets too. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You mean the Chargers, who were like fucking third or fourth best odds to win Super Bowl based on their talent-loaded roster? Yeah, them. Yeah, that's just how that works when they leave. It's like, yeah,
well, to be fair, we are great at professionally as a city eating a bag of dicks in the playoffs. So.
Oh no, I know. And the real thing is people always fail to realize, as long as Tom Brady and Bill Belichick are still like actually alive and playing, no one is beating the Patriots in the AFC. So just fucking forget about it.
Not unless somebody gets richer on than the East Coast.
I made easy money in the Super Bowl. They're like, oh, the Rams are going to pressure Brady. I'm like, dude, you don't understand. And I made easy money in the Super Bowl. It's great. Super Bowl is terrible this year, but I made easy money. It's like, dude, no.
Yeah. Checks out.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, the only episodes I had to shout out is first off, if you guys have not been listening to Co-Main Events Road Agents podcasts, that's the show they do on their Patreon page specifically about Deadwood. Those have been fucking amazing. I need to catch back up on them since the Deadwood movie comes out today. I think when we're recording
tonight.
Yeah. So shouts out to that because that's been fantastic. And they're talking about maybe doing one about For the Wire, which I am 100% here for. Fucking Omar is coming, and I hope he's coming to the Co-Main Event podcast. Because god damn it, that would be the best. Other than that, Zane's World, Zane Lamprey's show was real good. He did one this week called Zane Lamprey Gets Real, where he just hangs out with Erica, who works for him, and they talk about that. Also, something very cool that I would keep an eye on, evidently on June 6th, 2019, Drink TV, which is the website that 4 Sheets is on, and Drinking Made Easy is on. Zane's previous shows, along with like the Brewdog guys have a show there. A bunch of people do. Evidently, that's going to be free for everyone, where you can watch with ads, or you can pay whatever it is, the $3-4 a month, and get it ad free. So that's going to be very fucking cool. I would definitely keep an eye out for that because that content's been great. And then Doug Stanhope podcast, the last 3 episodes, 313 from last week, and then 314 and 315 from this week have been fucking great. Highly recommend those. And it looks like they're starting a Patreon too, which is going to be cool. I'm curious to see what comes with that.
Okay. Nice.
Sweet. Is there any other shows you wanted to shout out here briefly?
That's it for me.
Cool. The only ones I had, a couple actually, I should mention, a couple shows ended this week. The Outsiders had their very last episode since Josh Gross, as we mentioned, is going to, I looked it up, he's going to The Athletic is the name of it. It's a subscription-based media outlet that does a lot of stuff, and it seems like they're ramping up their MMA content, so that'll be interesting. And he's going there with Chuck Mendenhall and with Ben Folks. So we'll see how that goes. A lot of it's just talking about Elias getting cut and how the UFC is sports entertainment, not a sport. A-Side live chat was good with the last episode that Sean Al-Shadi did with Jose Young, so we ended up passing the show on to, so that was cool. We talked about Co-Main Event. Their live chat was also pretty solid. That's where they mentioned that they might do they might end up doing The Wire as a Patreon podcast. And then Ben also pitched Chad on doing a live stream where they watch Brendan Schaub's special with Ben's wife, who's a comic. And I feel like that could be amazing. But Chad's not necessarily into the idea because he's like, I don't want to just shit on Brendan Schaub for an hour. So we'll see if that happens. If I did, it was good. Yeah. If I did, it was good. It's a lot of talk about Yoel winning the lawsuit and Oliveira's domestic violence accusations.
That's right. Yeah.
Brutal. MMA Beat 228 was solid. They had Brian Boom Kelleher on. Is Luke Danny Segura, Chuck Mendenhall, and Brian Kelleher. And Brian is a really interesting dude. He's great on podcasts. He also can rap. So I don't know. It's cool hearing him on there.
Oh yeah, that's right.
JRE MMA show episode 66 with Michelle Watterson was pretty solid. That's about all I have to say about it. It was just a solid episode. MMA Vivisection for Ryzen 16 is pretty good, even though the Ryzen card is a little weak. And Slip and Dip podcast. I want to congratulate on getting to 100 episodes. That is super dope, and I like that show a lot.
Nice.
So, congrats to Matt and Lamar.
Yeah, congratulations to them.
Cool, man. Well, we will go ahead and wrap this here, but we will be back after this clip of Chris had a clip that we're going to do. MMA Hour of Anthony Smith talking about how this fight's going to go, and we will be back to break down this UFC Stockholm card.